Welcome to the Automotive News and Entertainment Show with your host, Jim Proctor. For the next hour, automotive news, reviews, and celebrity interviews. And now, here's your host, Jim Proctor.
Good morning, North Texas, and welcome to another edition of the AnE Show. I'm Doc. I'm your host this morning. Let me introduce the crew to you this morning. We have Shu here working on the analytics.
Good morning, Dallas.
We have the spin doctor, James Schaefer.
Shout out to Stephen F. Austin, Lumberjacks. Way to go.
Well, we knew that was coming. The guru, Josh Deaton. Morning, Josh.
Good morning, everybody.
Of course, we have Joel the Gorilla.
What up?
And we have a special guest in studio this morning, the president of the MOPAR Club, Brad Buttermore. Good morning, Brad. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, fellas. Good to be here.
This morning we're going to talk about some big news that came out in the automotive industry. The first one that we're going to hit up on is the General Motors recall. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2, how many vehicles was it? 1.2 million vehicles?
1.5 million.
1.5 million.
Yeah.
And GM's estimating a cost to be somewhere around $300 million, but now there's reports coming out they think it's going to cost more than that.
Yeah, it could be higher. I mean, they've just set aside $300 million for just this quarter, and yeah, absolutely, it could be higher. I mean, we've got recalls all over the place. We've got Honda's recalling nearly 900,000 vans. You've got Justice Department announcing that $1.2 billion settlement with Toyota. This whole thing with the GM recall. I mean, it's kind of all over the place right now. You've got the CEO of GM basically saying that they're not standing for, the type of quality that they've had, so she wants them fixed fast. And most of these vehicles are 1.8 or 1 million of them are the Buick Enclave, the GM Acadia, the Chevrolet Traverse, and the Saturn Outlook makes up most of them.
And what's the biggest recall on? What is the actual recall?
It's the Buick Enclave and the just like I said, the Buick Enclave, the GM Acadia, the Chevy Traverse, and the Saturn Outlooks. Some of them are that make up that 1.5 million. Is 63,000 of them are the Cadillac XTS, 303,000 are the Chevy Express, and the GM Savannah. So it's kind of a wide variety of vehicles.
And it's all the same recall, though, right? It's the faulty ignition switches.
Yes. Faulty ignition, but remember what you were talking about earlier about the GM before the whole bailout. You were talking about
before
that?
2009.
Yeah,
before the bankruptcy.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that most of these vehicles will be taken care of. But you talk about the 900,000 minivans that for Honda, and you just look at that. You remember how they had the faulty braking where it would just brake automatically. Right. So now you've got the Honda has a new problem where they're recalling the Odysseys from 2005 to 2010, and Honda said it expects replacement parts won't be available until the summer, but it can provide customers a temporary fix in the meantime. And Honda said it would be notifying the customers in about 5 weeks. And it's prolonged exposure to the acid chemicals and high temperature environment that may cause the cover of the fuel pump strainer to deteriorate. Oh, man, it's early. Prematurely in a manner that could result in cracks in the material. So they're recalling about 340, or last year they recalled 344,000 of the 2007 and 2008 Odysseys for a sensor where it would just break on its own.
And, of course, everybody remembers the issue with Toyota, and you just said a minute ago that Toyota's agreed to settle that account for $1.2 billion.
Yeah,
there's an article with CNN who says that while $1.2 billion sounds like a huge number, that it's really a drop in the bucket for Toyota. They have say they have cash and cash equivalents that approach $6 trillion. So it shouldn't be an issue for them. It shouldn't. But it's a good thing to see that they finally settled this, because I know that thing was ugly for a long time. And, of course, like we were talking earlier, I mean, the issues that that they found, I think most of it turned out to be because of a floor mat, as far as the sticking in the accelerator, just a bad design and caused some issues there. So they've settled that. You had some news on something, Joel. What was it?
Yeah, the GM the CEO of GM, Mary Barra, is going to be testifying at the U.S. House of Energy and Commerce Committee on April 1st, along with the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration Acting Administrator David Friedman will testify over what's going on with this recall for GM.
Well, and one of the things is that there's a probe going on to find out with this GM issue on why it took so long for them to come forward, with these recalls. I mean, of course, we know that part of it in the whole stir with the bankruptcy and everything going back to 2009, that of course General Motors, as it stood before 2009, no longer exists. So that could take them, out of liability, out of harm's way as far as liability goes for that. But the fact that it took them 10 years to recall some of its cars with these faulty ignition switches is a major issue. And they're talking about congressional probes into this to find out exactly what was going on there. So some bad news for GM. If you, for the people out there listening, if you have one of these vehicles, contact your dealer right away. Find out if your vehicle is on the list. Get the recall done. Get it fixed and be safe out there.
Yeah, it's back to the the Toyota deal. Starting in 2009, Toyota issued the massive recalls, mostly in the U.S., totaling more than 10 million vehicles for various problems, including faulty brakes, gas pedals in the floor mats, like you were talking about. From 2010 to 2012, Toyota Motor Corp paid fines totaling more than $66 million for delays in reporting unattended acceleration problems. And what's crazy is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration never found defects in electronics or software in Toyota cars, which had been targeted as the possible cause. So last year, Toyota agreed to pay more than $1 billion to resolve hundreds of lawsuits claiming that the owners of the cars suffered economic losses because of the recalls, but the settlement did not include wrongful death and injury lawsuits that have been consolidated in California state and federal courts. And the negotiations come less than 2 months after Oklahoma jury just awarded $3 million in damages to the injured driver of a 2005 Camry and the family of a passenger who was killed. And that's pretty significant because Toyota had won all the previous unattended acceleration cases that went to trial, and it was also the first case where attorneys for the plaintiffs argued that the car's electronics, in this case the software connected to the midsize Camry electronics throttle control system, were the cause of the unattended acceleration.
Yeah,
So-
and we've heard news back and forth on that, over the years.
Yeah.
Going back, and I remember when, even these vehicles, you couldn't sell them. Even if you had pre-owned ones on the lot, you could not sell them. The fixes, you had to wait for the fixes. They were sitting off to the side. Dealers had them sitting off to the side, waiting for the fixes, and it was just a nightmare. So I understand the settlement for, lost wages and things of that nature and going forward. So it's a good thing to see that they've been able to settle that. Once again, like we said, if you own one of these vehicles and you're concerned about whether it's on the recall list or not, contact your local dealer. They'll look it up. They'll ask you for some information on the vehicle, your vehicle identification number more than likely, and they'll let you know if it's on the recall list, and you need to get it in, get it handled, and move on down the road.
So what does it cost the consumer when they go in and take it back? They may or may not have a recall issue. What does it cost on that?
Well, if it's a manufacturer's recall, it's not going to cost them anything. So it's more of a
Service
time
departments
consumption.
are happy.
Yeah, the service departments are going to get busy with these things, and they're going to be they'll be flooded with these cars as this news has come out this week. Especially with General Motors. But it's more of an inconvenience. But like I said, it's something that if you're not aware of it, the one thing you want to make sure is just get it in there and get it taken care of.
So what about does the driver get a loaner card? Is that included in there, or are they just out of luck? They've got to bring it into the dealership?
It just depends on the dealership, really.
Well, it depends on the dealership. It depends on the program with the manufacturer. It depends on the time frame for these fixes. I mean, if it's something where they have, and I've seen these things before, the parts and the fixes kind of trickle in. Sometimes it's just reprogrammed. Sometimes it's an actual part. They have to get the parts in from the manufacturers, and they have to bring them in. Next up, we're going to take a break here, and next up on the show, we're going to get with the president of the MOPAR Club, see what's going on there, Brad Buttermore, right here on the Automotive News and Entertainment Show.
You're listening to the Automotive News and Entertainment Show, right here on 1190 AM.
Welcome back to the AnE Show. This next segment is sponsored by DodgeCityofMcKinney.net. We're here with Brad Buttermore, president of the MOPAR Club, and if you like classic cars, this is the guy you need to talk to. Good morning, Brad. Thank you for joining us. Give us a little bit of insight into the MOPAR Club and what you guys have going on.
Well, good morning, guys. Thanks for having us here today. We sure like the opportunity to talk about the club, visit with you all about the current happenings in the auto world. First, I got to thank the Dodge City McKinney as our main sponsor of the club. We're just a bunch of car guys. We don't have a whole lot of money. What we have is tied up in the car, so it's nice to have a dealership that we can go to for parts, for new cars, for used cars, and to sponsor some of our events. And so I just want to thank you all for that. I appreciate it very much. The MOPAR Club, the Dallas MOPAR Club, was formed in 1982, and it was really originally formed by a group of guys who kind of were like racing guys. It was a muscle car club. It wasn't a 1940s car or a Valiant or anything. It was a 1962 to 1974 muscle car club, and it was formed, like I said, in 82, 83, and it's been around there this whole time. We have about 70 to 100 members. It kind of fluctuates over economic times and car activity. And we have a meeting every month here in Dallas at the Spring Creek Barbecue on LBJ and Preston Road at 2 o'clock on Sundays. I'd encourage everybody to look at the website, which is at www.dallasmoparclub.com. There's all kinds of news of what we do, where we do it, and what we can do, and how we can help you there if you're in this hobby. And I think primarily we have a big annual show every Labor Day, which is called the Southwest Mopar Mini Nats. It draws about 100 vehicles. They're very, very good vehicles as far as quality, and you'll see anything from 30s to all the modern cars are there as well. We have the LX group come in with all the current Challengers and versions of the Cooters and the Chargers, and we appreciate their participation. But you will see some beautiful muscle cars there. And, again, it's a judge show, but you can bring your car and not have it judged. It's a full day over in Garland, under the trees in a big park over there. And if you just like these cars or if you own one, I encourage you to come out and see that. It's a real nice day. And then the second day on a Sunday, we followed up with a free picnic for anybody that attended the show on Saturday over on Lake Levon. And it's all part of the membership and all part of the participating in that show that day.
I've been to the Southwest Mini Nats the past couple of years. I've been actually judging them in it the past couple of years, and there's some absolutely incredible vehicles. Especially being a Mopar guy, it's where I like being.
You guys almost brought a vehicle today. Tell the listeners what you guys almost brought.
Well, because of the rain, it's hard. Some of these cars, for instance, mine actually leaks. So if it rains today, then the trunk also gets full of water. But I have a 1966 Dodge Charger. It's not an original setup, but it's a real pretty red, real fire engine red car. Pretty big Mopar 440 block, would be about 7.7 liter in today's terms, something like that. There's a monstrous motor in the front of that thing.
Dual carb?
No, single carb, very large Holly 4-barrel, and gets about a smooth 7 miles to the gallon. So
as they should.
Yeah, as they should, right. But it's a fun car. It's great to have. It's very unique, and the guys wanted me to bring it today, and I would have, but the rain just really got me hesitant about it. So,
Well, I got kind of a little question here. I grew up in a Mopar family. My brother, I was the last of 3 kids. I was kind of a 12-year afterthought. So my brothers actually all graduated from high school in the 60s.
You were in an accident.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, so my oldest had a GTX. My middle brother, of course, he had a Hemi Roadrunner as a graduating gift. But what's your favorite all-time? I have my favorite all-time car that was produced. What's your favorite?
well, I happen to own a 1969 GTX convertible, and it is probably my favorite.
Would
car.
that be the green one?
It's the green one.
Absolutely.
White interior, power windows, air conditioning. It's a fully loaded Roadrunner with all the trim and bells and whistles on it. So I think I like that the best of everything. I tell you, the '66 Charger is a fun car to drive. Yeah. It is a beast, and it's a lot more fun, but it's limited in what it can do. But that would be my favorite.
So comparing the old school muscle cars, the old Roadrunners, the old Challengers, the old Cudas, and things like that, compared to say today's SRTs, what's your feeling on them?
It's really funny. I tell my children this when you try to teach them to drive these cars. You can spend a lot of money on these old cars and make them fairly modern if you want to. But if you just want to work on them like we do typically in the club, I still got a 60 suspension under the car. And it may be as best as it can be, but it's still a 60 suspension, which means you have to drive the car or it'll take off on you. If you hit the brakes, sometimes you're going left, you're going right. It's got no limited traction control on it. So if it's wet outside, hang on because you're going to go for a spin someplace, That's the biggest thing I think is you had to drive these cars. You had to learn how to drive for these cars. And today I had an 08 SRT8 Challenger that would go 170 miles an hour, and you could have one hand on the wheel and have sipping a coffee while you're going down the road. Yep. But I can assure you, if you're going 110 miles an hour in a 69 GTX, you have both hands on that skinny little steering wheel hanging on.
With the old drum brakes and that type of thing that want to fade on you and everything else. Mm-hmm. What's really sad with these cars is, the newer stuff. I was a gearhead growing up and loved to work on that. And when things started going electronic fuel injection and, fully electronic ignition and, everything's run off of an ECU, you can't turn a wrench on them anymore unless you have $10,000 worth of a computer to plug it into, so you can dial them in,
That sure is pretty good, though. They stick the key in it, turn it on and off about 2 or 3 times. It'll read you the codes out on the odometer and tell you what part.
Let me write that down. 3 times.
Well, for me, it's just a hobby, and I grew up in Detroit. I was, a gearhead from birth, and when you're in Detroit, you are either a Ford, GM, or Chrysler guy. You're not all 3. So I'm born and bled on Mopar Blue. But I like working on them. You're right. And the older cars, they're somewhat simple. They're frustrating in the way they're put together. You can't believe how they're put together, really, when you get down to it. And, but you're able to get in there and turn a wrench on them and have a little fun with them.
So somebody that is a little competitive in this, tell me a little bit about how you judge the different categories there are, and somebody that may want to get in and just build up their trophy case. And
yeah, that's a great question. The September show has turned into a really, I've probably been doing it like 14 years now, and so it's really, to me, I really like the event. You've got 100 cars out there, and you've got people who they're basket case cars that they've just got running. They can come to the show. They don't have to have them judged. They can just sit there and be part of the show. You can have your car judged if you like, and we have 25 or 30 different classes, and we judge them on a 300-point scale. So we look at the interiors, we look at the engine areas, and we look at the paint and exterior of the car. And we don't really judge on originality. It's just too hard for the common guy to have that much invested in these cars to get them perfectly original. So however they are, they're classed according to if they're original, they're in an original class. If they're modified, they're in a modified class. But you judge them, and you're fairly critical with them, and people get a chance to walk away with a nice plaque or trophy representing where they are within their class of car.
You said critical. So what is something that you would look at that would take off some points?
Well, most of it is just cleanliness. I mean, if you're bringing a car out to the show, it better be clean. And if it's not, you're going to lose points. And sometimes that's all it is. I would say that
my wife couldn't bring in her vehicle.
You couldn't bring in your vehicle. What are you talking about?
It really is. A lot of it's just cleanliness, and the other thing is, everybody's got a nick here and a scratch there on these cars. They're 40 and 50 years old. So you just –
Well,
if
they're
that's
all
what you
primarily
have.
drivers, aren't they?
No, some of them are drivers. Some people trailer them, but they're in a different class. So the people that you don't always find yourself comparing the car you drive every day being judged against a guy who drives up with a trailer and brings it out just once or twice.
And it's not just
We do have one group order the Pentastar cars. It is the best of the best. It's past show winners, and it's judged on a 1,000-point scale. We even do the undercarriage. We usually try to get a real young guy to crawl under the cars and look at it. I've had to judge undercarriages for many years, and quite frankly, I'm getting too old to get down it. When I get down there, I stay down there for a little while because it's too hard to get back up. But
take a nap.
We judge the interiors. These cars are mostly all original, and we have had Galen Govier come in at times and critique us on what to judge on the car as far as originality and everything. So we have a lot of knowledge within the club. Last night, I was out helping another guy that hadn't been in the club in several years put a 440 together, and we talked about handling of cars. Back in the day, you had to learn to drive them. You can't just rely on the car.
All right. Well, guys, we really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about the Mopar Club. And I know Joel put up a picture, I think, Brad 66 on the website, so you can check that out. I'm going to try and get some more pictures of some of that stuff up there. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined via phone by the coolest guy in Dallas, Paul Salfin, and his interview with the stars of the #1 movie in the country, Divergent, right here on the AnE Show.
You're tuned in to the Automotive News and Entertainment Show, right here on 1190 AM.
Welcome back to the Automotive News and Entertainment Show. Make sure you check us out online at theaneshow.com. Send us your questions, pictures, comments on Twitter and Facebook. We're joined right now via the phone line by the coolest guy in Dallas, Paul Salfin, who is somewhere in Florida. Paul, you with us?
I'm with you.
Hey, Paul. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I'm in Miami, Florida, in South Beach, looking out over the water, and I'm here for the Rio 2 world premiere.
Tough life.
Living the dream, aren't you?
Roger
Living the
Towns,
dream.
South Beach.
That's what the pretty people do.
The Fontainebleau Hotel, it could be worse, and it has been worse.
Yeah, and we don't feel bad anytime it is worse for you because you never tell us those stories.
Oh, I'll be glad to tell you those stories. There's plenty of those. But right now, things are looking pretty good.
Tell us a little bit about the movie Divergent. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I'm scheduled to go see it tomorrow take my daughter and her friends to go see it. But tell us a little bit about the movie and this interview that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an interesting concept. It kind of takes place in a future dystopian Chicago where people are divided into factions based on their virtues. So, kind of whatever personality that you fit in, that's the kind of group that you go into. And it's one of these new YA or young adult novels that just kind of blew up. So it's along the lines, and they're trying to capture the same fans as Twilight and the Hunger Games and every other one of those type of things that are coming along. Now, it's going to be a hit for sure. But, funny enough, I had a discussion on the media bus with a bunch of the other critics on there, and they pretty much had the same conclusion, is that it's much better than Twilight, but definitely not as good as the Hunger Games.
And you had an opportunity to interview a couple of the stars from this movie, right?
Yeah, the one great thing about this movie is it's chock full of really good talent, and some of them get a chance to shine, like Shailene Woodley, the star of it. She's great in it, and she keeps your attention much better than, say, Kristen Stewart in Twilight. But with the two stars that I got to talk to were Miles Teller and Jai Courtney. Now, Miles Teller, he's been kind of making waves in the indie scene. One of my favorite films last year was The Spectacular Now, and he was the star of that. But coming up, he's going to be Mr. Fantastic in the reboot of the Fantastic Four, which is really cool. And Jai Courtney, you might have seen him before in playing Bruce Willis' son in the last Die Hard film.
Mm-hmm.
But coming up, he's going to be in the new Terminator film that they're rebooting with Arnold. So it's all pretty exciting for them. So they're young, they're funny, and they're really particularly funny in this. They we started out on a humorous note.
All right. Well, let's check out that interview with Paul Southon and the stars of Divergent.
Well, congrats on the film. We're really excited to see you guys last night. I don't think I've ever seen anyone photo op more than that. What's it like to meet such a massive fans?
Well, I'm just needy. You know what I mean? So as much as my fans need me, I need them. So it was a lot of fun. Some of those girls were very aggressive, but it was
It was a lot of fun.
We never get to deal with fans like that.
No,
so
and it's cool in that setting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
in a controlled
everyone was pretty well behaved
setting.
And it's like, yeah, man, they made the effort to come out. They've been hanging out for hours. It's great. You know, why not?
Yeah. But you're gonna have to get used to this on a mass basis right now. So I guess there are worse problems to have, right?
Yeah. It's fun. No, it's all it's all good. It's all part of it.
That's a first world problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's a lot of people who are really excited about this movie, and it's going to be memorable for so many people. But what is the moment you think you'll always remember years from now when people ask you about this film?
Well, for me, I mean, this was the first time I was on a movie that there was this many people my own age. You know, because most time in a movie it's like you're the guy, or maybe like you're the buddy of the guy. But for this one, it was like me, Jai, Theo, Christian, Ben Lamb, you know, and it was just a lot of fun to be able to, you know, all kind of come together on this thing and enjoy this experience together. It was the biggest movie any of us had ever done, really.
Yeah, how about for you?
Yeah. I mean, the experience, I would have to agree with Miles. We had a lot of fun shooting this thing, and I think it was largely due to the fact that you had, 12 or so, 20-somethings all staying, in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
We partied pretty hard.
As you should.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, and I guess you'll be no stranger to more franchises, I understand. Fantastic Four and Terminator.
Boom, baby.
So
Bam.
congrats. A little
Thank
nervous
you.
about those are big franchises to take over.
I mean, was Moses nervous? Was Noah nervous? Yeah, but they did it. So I'm just pumped for it.
I don't share that exact sentiment. Nerves? No, excited. It's like it's cool. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Well, on the Drew Pearson Show, we always ask everybody their Hail Mary moment, and Drew famously caught the Hail Mary pass. And I think everybody has a Hail Mary moment where they just kind of had to go for it in their lives, and it worked out. What do you suppose that was for each of you?
What do you mean? What's a Hail Mary moment?
You're saying a moment where you have nothing left except to just go for the big one. Hail Mary's, see, he's Australian. Hail Mary, we're talking like football. And we're not talking soccer, we're talking American football.
I don't play soccer.
It's a touchdown pass, long pass. It's like last effort. Big thing here.
What was the question?
Well, a big moment where you just had to go for it, and it worked out for you.
In the movie?
Just in general, in life.
Oh,
I think as an actor, at least for me, that comes daily. Especially if you're auditioning or you're on set. That it's very easy to be insecure. Everybody's insecure about something. But I think what the great actors do is that they really just give themselves completely over to character, and it's a gift for an audience. So we're doing a ton of stuff where we feel really stupid, but we believe in the in the outcome.
Yeah, you got to be okay with that. That's the thing, in that you kind of have to be unafraid to look ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, your hair in the movie
is ridiculous.
You have a neck tattoo.
It's all ridiculous.
Bolts coming out of your face.
Yep.
But it looks good.
But it looks good.
I actually really like the way you look.
Thanks, buddy.
And how about your show pitch moment, the moment that you knew you were discovered?
The what moment?
A show pitch moment, a moment that you knew you were actually
I'm learning all these new
discovered.
phrases now.
Because you're not American.
I
Okay?
know that.
It's a daily thing with you.
Show pitch moment?
Yes. Just a moment when you knew you were discovered, when you knew you had made it. Maybe someone recognized you somewhere. Or something.
Oh, I don't feel that way. I think, I mean, getting recognized or something's one thing, but I don't know if well, you know, we'll see how things go. But I don't have a sense of making it, that's for sure, yet.
I definitely wouldn't.
It was very early and
Giants
very
made it yet.
uncertain. Yeah, Miles.
When a cool moment, my first cool moment kind of was at the after party, at the rap party for the first film I did. I was bowling with Nicole Kidman, and to me that was just so bizarre. Yeah.
That's a cool moment. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank
So
you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for all the new.
Take care of them
vernacular.
shoes.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul. Well, great interview there. Sounds like those guys were having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's got to be fun, you know, to be two young, successful actors with their lives ahead of them, crisscrossing the country with screaming girls everywhere.
And
like I said, it could be worse.
Hey, Paul, and they compared themselves to the historical biblical people of Noah and Moses. That's, I'll tell you what, that's pretty, can you say ballsy on air?
Yeah, well, that was Miles, and he was just joking. You know, he's got this very funny, dry sense of humor. He's, I think, originally from Philly, where I'm from. It just kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, those guys are super cool. Like I was saying in there, I've never seen anybody photo op so much. Miles Teller went up and down at the Cinemark on the tollway there, up and down the line of screaming girls, and just took who knows how many 200 photos with people. So
That kind of
it's really
sounds like your life.
Not exactly, but it is a very fun life. And today's going to be a whole lot of fun. For Rio 2, I'm going to interview Anne Hathaway, Jesse Eisenberg, Andy Garcia, Kristen Chenoweth, Jermaine Clement, George Lopez, Jamie Foxx, and a few others. So it's going to be a busy day.
Jamie Foxx ought to be a lot of fun, especially with that movie. I saw the first one with my kids, and it's pretty funny, and they're looking forward to the second one coming out. But going back to Divergent for a minute, I think it's already blown up the box offices just coming out in the last 48 hours.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, it's definitely going to be the number one movie this weekend by a long shot. And you know, which is saying a lot because Muppets comes out too, which I would have thought would be, you know, a pretty big hit. But seems like this is where all the young folks are going this weekend.
Shu is he's going to be standing in line in a second for the Muppets show. And then, but we all had a kind of a question on Divergent. So we know that you've got your new TV show out, and congratulations on that, by the way.
That's right. Thank you so much, Inside Entertainment. It's doing well.
Absolutely. And then, so what we're wondering is, are you going to end up doing a Divergent for the AnE show?
I'm not sure what you mean. Am I going to divide you into factions?
Yeah, are you? Will you?
Oh, of course, yeah.
We've already got monikers, so they kind of already divided us.
That's true. I just don't want to be the one that dies in the end.
Yeah, well, you never know. Just like the game of life, we don't know which box we're going to be placed in, but I'm definitely in the special needs box. For sure.
Hey, well, Paul, man, we want to thank you again for calling in. I know it's probably early for you out there. You've been out partying on South Beach and such, and we appreciate you calling in and send us time, and look forward to seeing you back in town here shortly.
Yeah, I can't wait to be back. And just in case you guys haven't gotten it out of the way over there, I just want to say mullets and cheese toast.
we have not gotten there yet, but
we haven't quite gotten there yet. But
no,
Paul, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
You got it. Bye-bye.
That was the coolest guy in Dallas, Paul Salfin, calling us directly from South Beach. We're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back, and we're going to ask everyone out there, is your bracket busted already? Right here on the AnE Show.
You're tuned in to the Automotive News and Entertainment Show, right here on 1190 AM.
Welcome back to the AnE Show. Want to throw a big shout out to our new board op, Elise. Thank you, Elise, for everything that you do. And she has a new assistant in there today, Joseph Schaefer, 12-year-old intern, working and learning the radio business. Good morning, Joseph. How you doing, buddy?
He's not away from the mic, but he's smiling real big.
Yeah, he is.
Taking a lot of notes.
Hey, so something we want to talk about. I mean, we have the Warren Buffett bracket is busted. Say that 5 times fast.
11 million entries gone.
They're all gone. They're all done.
I don't know what y'all are talking about. My bracket is perfect here, and I submitted it to Google, and so we're fine.
Right there, you got to put it in Yahoo.
Yeah,
son of a gun.
You got to put it in Yahoo, and the fact that you tried to fax it to Google with all this whiteout. I see the whiteout tube in front of you. That's not going to pass.
Stupid Mercer.
Yeah, I mean, there's you have brackets that. You have some games that are kind of held together. Of course, I mean, the number 12 seeds have been the big story. Of course, we had the shout out to Stephen F. Austin upsetting VCU yesterday, and of course, we have Dayton, who upset Ohio State.
And knocked a lot of people out early.
Yeah. And then of course, I mean, the biggest one is Mercer taking out Duke, which. The interesting story about that, and it's been all over the news with that team, is that their top 7 guys, all 5 of their starters are all seniors, and they've all played together. Then they've played together for 4 years, and it just goes to show that, I mean, they may not be as talented as Duke, but guys who have played together know each other, know what the other one's thinking. On any given day, you can put them together against all these worldly all-stars, and they can take them down.
Here's one thing. Nothing against Mercer, great team, but this has happened to Duke multiple times. They've get knocked out by a small school like this.
Yeah, well, anytime you play in an environment like that, first of all, these big programs, the Duke, the North Carolinas, the Kansas, those guys, every game they're on their stage. But when you come to a tournament like Stephen F., and I keep talking about Stephen F. because that's where I went to school. But Stephen F. Austin, all my fellow lumberjacks know what Stephen F. is. Yeah. Thanks, Shu. So, anyways, you get into an environment like that and you're playing ball, you're actually on a neutral territory. And now it just comes down to just playing basketball. And that's it. It's 5-on-5. You're going at it. And
with Duke, it almost wasn't neutral because they played in Raleigh.
Right, exactly. And so for Mercer to come out and really take it to them, rattle them, I mean, you could see Coach K just looking and going, oh, God, it's
not again.
I'm
like
getting
Lehigh all over again.
Yeah, and if you watch that game or you even, you watched all the highlights from that game, I mean, it wasn't a fluke. I mean, these guys, you could just tell – the way, like I said, they played together. They knew where the other guy was going to be. They knew what the other guy was going to do. They knew exactly what to expect. And, at least for one night, man, they put it all together. And, with Jabari Parker from Duke, who's expected to possibly be the number 1 draft pick in this year's draft on the other side, I mean, they just took it to him. I mean, that was a team round and round.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they got to the next round, taking out Tennessee.
Taking on another upset, a little bit of an upset, Tennessee beating UMass, and really they kind of thumped UMass.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got the number 11 versus number 11 Tennessee versus a 14 seed in Mercer. So should be an interesting game. You're definitely going to have an 11 or a 14 in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, there is no other better tournament in anything in the world than this the Final Four tournament. I mean, you just where the little guy can come out and beat Goliath. See, Paul already got me on the biblical stories and everything, but the little guy just knocks out Goliath, and it's just amazing. Everybody's got a true chance in this.
Well, and there's been a lot of talk about Wichita State. And I know Shu.
Hashtag watch us.
Yeah, and I know Shu, you're a big Wichita State fan, and they had very, very little problem with Cal Poly.
I think you would call that dismantle.
But now you're going up against Kentucky, who, over the years has had the aura around them of always being a contender. Not a real high seed for Kentucky at number 8, but, still.
You got to look at it this way. Wichita State's got something to prove. They got knocked out last year.
In the Final Four.
Right. They haven't lost since. They're on a mission, and you've got 5 guys, literally the whole team that bangs on both ends. I mean, they bang on the. All right, guys, they get down inside. Yeah.
Oh man, you said it. They bang on both ends. So
Keep it a piece.
on the defensive side and on the offensive side, there's not that many teams that get down on the offensive side and will play that hard.
Who's got a sleeper out there? I mean, I don't know that. I don't know that we really think Stephen F. Austin's going to go all the way, but who's got a sleeper? Who's got a real sleeper going to the Sweet 16?
Well, I have Stephen F. Austin in the Sweet 16. I haven't beaten UCLA. So.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as much as I love them, God, I just don't see that happening. I think most people like Shu probably chalked their bracket, and went with the top seeds, and so of course he's not going out on a limb picking Wichita State. So.
No, and I don't think I'm a Kansas boy, and I hate to see K-State lose last night. In Kansas, I thought they were a little bit in trouble in the first part of the game yesterday, but I think we were talking earlier. I don't think Kansas is going to make it. I don't think they're going to make it this year.
They usually go out. They're kind of like Duke. They get knocked out kind of early too.
Right.
They're going to get beat by Syracuse.
I had them going out to New Mexico.
I need Wichita. I need Wichita State to hang in there since I had Duke going up against Wichita State in the Midwest. So hopefully, I have Wichita State in the Final Four.
I got them in the championship. What up?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not Wichita State and Michigan State.
So I think Michigan State's definitely a team to watch. I think if Virginia gets by Memphis and Michigan State gets past Harvard, and don't think that that's going to be any easy task. I mean, as many times as we've seen Harvard in this tournament and the things that they do and the way that they've played over the years, I mean, don't think that's going to be any easy task. But that really sets up for a real top-notch game with Virginia against Michigan State, and that's a game that I'd really like to see.
See, I think it's going to be Florida, Michigan State getting to that Final Four, and Michigan State's going to pull it out. But that's going to be the game that I'm really looking at that would screw up my bracket right there. So otherwise,
Michigan State, Virginia.
No, I think Michigan State, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think that Michigan State Virginia game is going to be.
Has anybody noticed that we haven't said anything about Texas?
They got lucky.
Yeah,
I picked them to lose the first round.
Yeah, they barely got by last night, and it's they had a hiccup last year, and they don't.
They didn't make the tournament last year.
That's what I'm saying.
No Texas team made the tournament last year.
They had a hiccup in missing the tournament last year after pretty much being a mainstay in the tournament, and I don't think they're quite there to make a real deep run. They could possibly get to the Sweet 16, but I don't see them really getting much further than that.
And it's a mindset from the coaching. And we've had Drew Pearson, we've had Randy White on the show, Jen Welter on the show, and Tim Brown. And what's funny is they all come back to coaching and getting you prepared. And in this tournament, you have to look at that coaching, and that's why you have the Coach K's of the world, the Bobby Knights, the Roy Williams, all these guys that you can just rattle off your tongue. And they prepare them to put them on the big stage and to really come out and perform. And that's and you look at it, and that's where the good teams come out. And so I think Michigan State, he's prepared his team quite well. They're ready. Duke, I was disappointed because I'm a big Coach K fan, but Duke should have come out and delivered. And sometimes with Texas, though, I think Texas A&M, they've got such big football programs, and these guys, and I don't want to diminish what these guys do in college, but they're walking on that college campus, and they're the big man, and then you get out and where you have to perform, you get out, you better perform out there, and I think they kind of live on, hey, they're handed this, handed that, and they just didn't. And they don't end up coming to it with the right mindset.
And you have so many of the superstars with the one and done. I mean,
Yeah.
Jabari Parker's going to be a perfect example. One and done.
I hate that rule.
You're talking about Coach K. And you go back and you look at the history and you look at the best teams he had in history. It was the guys that stayed around for 4 years.
Christian
it was the Christian
Laettner,
Laettners, the Bobby Hurleys, the Grant Hills, the guys that
Danny Ferry.
They built those teams. They built those teams up with all those guys staying there. For 3 and 4 years. And this is going to be a topic that's been in the news right now, and it's going to stay in the front line.
Yep.
The college game is a system. It is really a system. I mean, there are these real all-stars that come in and play, but then when you're together 3 and 4. When you're together 3 or 4 years, it's a real benefit to the team.
Absolutely, and to the fans.
Hey, we want to thank everybody for joining us. We want to thank Paul for calling us from South Beach, Brad Buttermore, the guys from the MOPAR Club. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you right here next week on the AnE Show on 1190 KFXR.
This is KFXR Dallas with all the top news and business stories of the day. It's all on 1190 AM.